Confirmation bias makes people notice information that supports what they already believe. Case: a fan remembers praise for their team and dismisses every criticism. Treat confidence as a reason to check, not relax. What can be verified? Look for the strongest opposing fact before trusting the first comfortable answer. The brain saves effort. It is easier to fit new facts into an old story than rebuild the story. Seen when someone who dislikes a coworker sees one mistake as proof of character. Ground the choice in evidence. Look for the strongest opposing fact before trusting the first comfortable answer. Confirmation bias makes people collect evidence that supports what they already believe and discount evidence that challenges it. People often ask questions that lead to preferred answers. In practice, searching why renting is wasting money instead of comparing renting and buying honestly. Ask neutral questions first. A better environment can make the desired behavior easier to repeat. Catching the pattern early creates more choice. Supporting examples are easier to recall because they match the mental file. Seen when a person remembers every time a plan failed but forgets the times it worked. Write down evidence from both sides. The clearest check is factual. Look for the strongest opposing fact before trusting the first comfortable answer. The cost becomes visible when a person remembers every time a plan failed but forgets the times it worked. Social media can amplify confirmation bias because platforms learn what holds attention. If someone watches one angry clip about a topic, the feed may quickly fill with similar anger, making that viewpoint feel more common than it really is. The person may think the world suddenly became more extreme, when their inputs simply became narrower. Changing the information diet is often more useful than arguing with every post that appears. Relationships suffer. Partners can start collecting evidence for a fixed label. Common case: after deciding someone is selfish, even tired silence looks like selfishness. Look for patterns and exceptions. The simplest check is strong counter evidence and sources with different incentives, because it replaces guessing with something observable. A better environment can make the desired behavior easier to repeat. Investors may read only bullish opinions after buying an asset. Decide what would change your mind before entering. Use the observable clues. Look for the strongest opposing fact before trusting the first comfortable answer. The final point is this: confirmation bias is dangerous because it can make selective evidence feel like honest research. The pressure shows up when a stock owner ignores warnings because selling would admit uncertainty. Notice politics hardens identity first. Beliefs tied to group belonging become harder to revise. Imagine a correction feels like betrayal instead of information. Separate facts from loyalty. A better environment can make the desired behavior easier to repeat. Workplace examples is usually where the issue becomes visible. Managers may notice data that supports a favored hire or project. Case: a weak result gets called temporary because the idea is emotionally owned. Invite disagreement before decisions are locked. Separate guesses from facts. Look for the strongest opposing fact before trusting the first comfortable answer. First impressions stick. Early labels shape later interpretation. Notice this: a student called lazy may have every late assignment seen as attitude. The real engine is this: confirmation bias makes people notice evidence that supports what they already believe and discount evidence that challenges it. The example is an investor reading only bullish posts after buying, and the response is strong counter evidence and sources with different incentives. Why intelligence does not remove it. Smart people can defend wrong beliefs with better arguments. Example: a clever person builds a stronger case instead of a fairer one. Seek accuracy, not victory. Disconfirming evidence feels unpleasant. Daily version: a parent hears their method may harm trust and feels attacked. Pause before rejecting the discomfort. Here, an investor reading only bullish posts after buying shows why selective evidence, identity, algorithms, and confidence matter more than a surface description. The clearest sign is a parent hears their method may harm trust and feels attacked. Instead of guessing, start with investment opinions. It gives the situation a more reliable anchor. Asking what would prove me wrong opens the door to better judgment. Notice this. A buyer asks why this property might be a bad deal. Make the opposing case honestly. Work from the available evidence. Look for the strongest opposing fact before trusting the first comfortable answer. The warning sign is a buyer asks why this property might be a bad deal. A careful person would compare political articles with hiring decisions before deciding what the situation actually means. Different sources reveal what your usual circle leaves out. Imagine reading only one creator makes every conclusion feel universal. Compare sources with different incentives. A better environment reduces the need to fight the same impulse repeatedly. An investor reading only bullish posts after buying. In everyday terms, relationship assumptions matters when it changes what someone spends, avoids, accepts, delays, or repeats. The everyday problem is decision journals help. Recording reasons before outcomes prevents memory rewriting. Example. An investor writes why they bought before knowing the result. Review your original logic later. This scene should leave one concrete lesson. Strong counter-evidence and sources with different incentives. The difference between hiring decisions and political articles can explain why two similar situations lead to different outcomes. Changing your mind saves time, money, and relationships. Version. Admitting a hiring mistake early beats defending it for a year. Make revision a strength. The case shows where the pressure actually appears. The pattern is easiest to handle before it takes over. A belief becomes safer when it has survived contact with facts that were inconvenient, not only facts that were comforting. The topic becomes real when bad reviews affects the next choice, bill, conversation, or risk. The faster a fact makes you feel right, the more carefully it deserves checking. Example. A headline that perfectly matches your anger may be incomplete. Verify before sharing or acting. The hard part is that supportive evidence feels honest because it fits what the person already expected. A person collects evidence, but mostly the evidence that protects the belief already in place is easy to miss until the result becomes visible. The practical defense is to ask what would change your mind, then look for the strongest opposing explanation. The moving part is visible when better thinking begins when being accurate matters more than being right. It shows why confirmation bias makes people notice evidence that supports what they already believe. Confirmation bias becomes especially costly when money, politics, hiring, health choices, or relationships turn into identity battles. A person buying a risky investment may read only bullish opinions because doubt would threaten the excitement of the decision. Confirmation bias is powerful because it usually feels like common sense from the inside. The safest belief is the one that has survived a fair challenge. A good test is to ask what a careful critic would notice before money, pride, or loyalty get involved. Before trusting a conclusion, the person can ask whether they would accept the same evidence if it supported the opposite side. The safeguard is to deliberately look for the strongest opposite evidence before the belief hardens into identity, spending, politics, hiring, or relationship judgment. Before trusting a conclusion, ask what evidence would change your mind and whether you have seriously looked for it. The useful safeguard is to invite one strong opposing fact before the belief becomes emotionally expensive to change.